I was never the favorite. That honor belonged to my sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Growing up in her shadow taught me that my opinions didn't matter, my dreams weren't important, and my feelings were either ignored or ridiculed. When my sister failed a test, somehow it was my fault for distracting her. When she lost a friend, I was probably the reason. When she broke something valuable, I must have pushed her into it. And my mother, she believed every single word. I tried desperately to be the perfect daughter. I worked myself to exhaustion, earned straight A's, and kept silent when they hurled insults at me like daggers. I never lashed out, never fought back. Deep down, I believed that maybe, just maybe, if I proved my worth enough times, they'd finally love me the way they loved her. But nothing changed. Nothing ever changed. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday night that started like any other argument. Well, they were arguing while I stood there like furniture, letting their voices wash over me. My sister had flunked another class, and instead of taking responsibility, she did what she always did. She blamed me. "You've ruined our lives," she screamed, her face twisted with a rage that seemed too big for the small mistake that had triggered it. I barely had time to process her words before my mother's voice cut through the air like a blade. "We'd be happier without you." The words hung in the silence that followed, heavy and final. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't beg them to take it back. Something inside me simply broke, or maybe it finally healed. I nodded once, turned around, and walked to my room. I grabbed my old backpack and packed whatever I could fit. A few clothes, my laptop, the small savings account book I'd hidden under my mattress. They didn't stop me. They didn't even watch me leave. Just like that, I was gone. The night air bit at my skin as I stepped onto the sidewalk, my backpack heavy against my shoulders. But nothing compared to the weight that had lifted from my chest. I had always imagined leaving would feel dramatic, tears streaming down my face, maybe a last lingering look at the home I was abandoning. But there was none of that. No one ran after me. No one called my name. No one cared that I didn't know where to go. I found a cheap motel for the night, paying for a single room with shaking hands. The fluorescent light flickered overhead as I sat at the small desk, staring at my laptop screen, trying to figure out what came next. I didn't have a degree, didn't have connections, barely had money. But I had one advantage. I had spent my entire life being ignored and underestimated. If I was going to make it, I'd have to build something from nothing. I started with what I knew, studying. It sounds ridiculous, but I was good at it. I'd spent years excelling in school, tutoring other kids, helping people understand complex subjects. Maybe I could turn that into something real. The next morning, I walked into a small cafe, ordered the cheapest coffee on the menu, and used their free Wi-Fi to apply for every online tutoring gig I could find. I set my rates low, just enough to get people to notice me. At first, it was barely enough to survive. I lived off instant noodles and dollar store groceries, renting a room in a shared apartment with 3 strangers who barely acknowledged my existence. But it was still better than where I'd come from, because every morning I woke up knowing that no one would scream at me, blame me for their failures, or tell me I was ruining their lives. And that was enough. Months passed. My tutoring business grew slowly but steadily. 1 client turned into 3, 3 turned into 10. Soon I was making enough to move into a tiny studio apartment, barely more than a box, but it was mine. Through all of it, my family never called. Not once. Not on my birthday, not on holidays, not even to check if I was alive. It hurt in the way old wounds do. Deep, silent, lingering. But I told myself it was fine. If they didn't care, then neither did I. A year into my new life, everything changed. I had built a reputation as a tutor specializing in college entrance exams, with students from across the country reaching out to me. But I was still trading time for money, and I knew that wasn't sustainable. That's when I got the idea. What if I could turn my lessons into something bigger? Something scalable? I spent months studying digital marketing, watching hours of free YouTube content, reading every article I could find. Then I started creating my own online course, The Ultimate SAT Prep Guide. It was a massive risk. I poured every spare dollar into designing the course, building a website, running ads. At first, sales trickled in slowly, 1 here, 2 there. Then something shifted. Word of mouth spread. Students started raving about my methods, sharing them online. Almost overnight, it exploded. I woke up one morning to see that my sales had tripled, then quadrupled. Within a few months, I was making more money than I had ever thought possible. I moved into a sleek, high-rise apartment, traveled to places I'd only dreamed about, and built friendships based on mutual respect rather than blood obligation. I had done it. I had built myself from nothing, and my family, they were nowhere to be found. Not a single message, not a single call. They didn't care about me until this morning when my phone buzzed incessantly on my nightstand. Mom, 6 missed calls. Sister, 8 missed calls. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. After all this time, after they had made it so clear they never wanted me, they were reaching out. I let out a slow breath. I had changed. I wasn't the weak, desperate girl they had pushed out of their lives. Whatever they wanted, it wasn't going to be an apology, and I had no intention of making it easy for them. Finally, I answered. "Hello," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Sweetie, please, we need to talk." Mom's voice trembled through the speaker. Sweetie. She hadn't called me that in years. The fake tenderness stung. "What's going on?" I asked, not hiding my disbelief. There was a long pause. We've fallen on hard times. Your sister's been having trouble at school again, and with everything going on, we just don't have enough. We need your help." I bit my lip, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and rage bubbling up inside me. This was why they were calling. Not to apologize, not because they missed me, but because they needed something. "What kind of help?" I asked, keeping my tone calm. "We need money," she blurted out. "Your sister's tuition is due and we have bills we can't pay. I know we've never been there for you, but please, we're struggling. We need you to help us. We've tried everything." I could hear her sniffle. Maybe it was genuine, or maybe it was just guilt trying to worm its way back in. "Please," she repeated, "we need you back. We need your support." The words hung in the air. My support, the same support they had rejected for years. "You're serious?" I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You really think I'll come back and help you after everything? Please don't do this. We know we messed up, but we're your family. You can't just leave us like this." "You never cared about me when I needed you," I shot back, my voice trembling with suppressed anger. "You were too busy with your golden child. You let me disappear. You told me you'd be better off without me." I paused, feeling the rage bubble up in my chest, but I held it in check. I wasn't going to let them see how much they had hurt me. "I don't owe you anything," I said, every word sharp as glass. My sister's voice came through next, frantic and panicked. "I know I was horrible to you, but I need your help. I messed up, okay? I didn't mean it. I've been trying to fix things, but I don't know what to do anymore." I almost laughed. "Fix things? How do you fix years of pain?" "I don't want your apologies," I said coldly, "and I don't owe you my money or my help. You can figure it out just like I did. But please, just—" My sister's voice wavered, but I cut her off. "Number, you should have thought about this before you kicked me out of your lives." I hung up, my heart racing with adrenaline, not just from anger, but from the satisfaction of knowing that they needed me. After years of silence, of pretending I didn't exist, they needed me. But it didn't matter. They didn't deserve me anymore. The phone buzzed again, then again. Messages flooded in throughout the day, each one more desperate than the last. My mother's voice cracked through voicemails. My sister sent increasingly frantic texts. They were relentless, their desperation creeping through the screen. But what did they expect? They had made their bed. Now it was time to face the consequences. Then at 7 p.m. I saw something that made my heart skip. "I need to talk to you. This isn't just about money. I know I messed up. We messed up. But I'm asking you as a mother to come home. I need you. We need you. Please don't leave us like this." For a second, I actually considered calling her back. Maybe I could hear her out, find some way to make this work. But then I thought of everything they had put me through, the way they had treated me like I didn't matter. I wasn't their savior. "You had your chance," I typed. "I'm done." The next evening, as I sat in my living room, scrolling through my phone, I heard a knock at the door. Sharp, quick raps, followed by silence. I looked up, confused. Who could that be? I walked to the door, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. Peering through the peephole, my stomach dropped. There they were, Mom, Dad, and my sister, standing on my doorstep, looking like they hadn't slept in days. Their faces were tired, drawn, and pale. But it wasn't just their appearance that made my pulse quicken. It was the fact that they had shown up here, uninvited after everything. I opened the door just enough to see them fully. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice low but shaking with anger. Mom stepped forward first, her eyes wide with desperation. "Please, just hear us out," she pleaded. I stared at her, the same woman who had told me she'd be better off without me, who had shoved me aside time and time again. And now she was standing on my doorstep, asking for help. "What the hell are you doing here?" I repeated, my tone rising. "You think just because you show up at my door, I'm going to take you back? You think I'm going to forget everything you've done?" Dad shifted uncomfortably behind Mom, but he didn't speak. My sister stood next to him, her eyes on the ground, avoiding my gaze. "We're sorry," Mom said, her voice breaking. "We've been trying to reach you, but we know we've messed up. This is it's just so hard and we don't know what else to do. You're the only one who can help us." The anger rose up like a tidal wave. "You didn't need me before. Why now? You had years to fix this, years, and you never once bothered to reach out, to make things right. Not when it mattered. And now you think you can just show up here and make everything okay?" They were silent, clearly taken aback by my coldness. Mom's eyes welled with tears, but I couldn't bring myself to care. "We've been struggling," she continued, her voice a desperate whisper. "We don't have money for rent. Your sister's future is slipping away. I don't know what else to do." "Don't tell me you don't know what else to do," I said, my voice shaking with fury. "You had choices. You made choices. And I wasn't part of them. But now that everything's falling apart, suddenly you want me?" Mom took a step forward, her hand outstretched. "Please, just listen." I slammed the door in her face. The sound reverberated through the house, and for a second, I felt a rush of power. I could finally control this situation. But as I stood there, my hand resting on the door handle, something twisted in my gut. It wasn't guilt. It was the realization that they had come here because they had nowhere else to turn. They had shown up not because they wanted to fix our relationship, not because they were truly sorry, but because they needed me. And I hated that more than anything. I could hear them talking outside, Mom pleading, my sister crying, Dad trying to comfort them. I couldn't stand it anymore. The anger inside me was overwhelming, and I knew if I didn't do something, I would regret it. So I opened the door again. There they were, still waiting. The desperation was written all over their faces. Mom's eyes were red from crying, my sister's head hung low in shame, and Dad looked defeated, like a man who had lost everything and didn't know how to get it back. For a moment, I just stood there, taking in the sight of them, the family that had hurt me, the family that had made me feel worthless, invisible, and now they were here, asking for help. But what did I owe them? Nothing. I took a deep breath and looked at them one last time. "No," I said, the word coming out cold and hard like a knife slicing through the tension. "You don't get to come here and expect forgiveness just because you're struggling now." I saw Mom open her mouth to protest, but I held up my hand, silencing her. "You had years to fix this, years to realize what you lost. But you didn't care then, and I'm not going to be your solution now. I've built my life, my success, from the ground up, and I'm not going to let you destroy it too." Their eyes started to well up again, but I couldn't feel anything. No guilt, no remorse, just a quiet satisfaction in knowing I was finally putting myself first. "Go," I said simply, my voice unwavering. "Fix your own mess. I'm done." I closed the door for the last time. Weeks passed, and I kept living my life. My business grew, my network expanded, and I felt more alive than ever. I had become the person I'd always wanted to be, someone who didn't have to apologize for their success, someone who had learned to let go of the toxic parts of their past. I never heard from them again, not even a message, not even a call. And you know what? That was fine. It was a quiet peace I hadn't realized I'd been craving. As time went on, I came to understand something important. The people who hurt you, the people who abandon you, are not the ones you should be looking to for validation. You're the one who matters. You're the one who gets to decide your future. In the end, I had learned one very simple truth. You can't keep giving to people who never gave you anything back. The door was closed for good, and I was finally free.